Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Bold and the Beautiful, BNB, spoilers suggest that Luna Nozawa, Lisa Yamada, may be placed in solitary confinement and discover that her freedom plot has failed. Luna's plans haven't been going as well as she'd wanted recently, and that pattern may continue now that she's planned her own attack behind bars. In the October 21st episode, Bill Spencer, Don Diamant, made it obvious to Luna that she would not be receiving any assistance from him. Instead of utilizing his influence to have Luna pardoned, Bill intends to keep her imprisoned indefinitely. Faced with the danger of being imprisoned indefinitely and having her baby taken away from her, Luna took desperate measures. Luna asked her cellmate for help with a beating, and it was revealed that it wasn't the first time. This same cellmate previously assisted Luna when she played the victim to persuade Bill she was in danger, resulting in her house arrest and subsequent pardon. Of course, now that Bill is aware of Luna's plans, duping him will be more difficult. Bill will know Luna set this up on purpose, so he will not be in a hurry to help her get out of jail. Luna may complain that she is not safe, but Bill may explain that she does not need to be at the opulent Spencer estate for that. In fact, BNB teasers suggest Bill's residence will be spiritually cleansed in the near future. Because the Spencers will be attempting to remove the negative energy from the area, it's possible that Luna will not be returning anytime soon. Instead, Bill might put Luna in solitary confinement. Luna may complain that this is unjust, but Bill may counter that he does not care if she is comfortable or lonely. The only thing that matters is the health and safety of Will Spencer's crew Morrow, baby. Therefore, Bill may believe that isolating Luna is the solution. That way, Luna will not be subjected to any further attacks, whether deliberate or unintentional, from her cellmate or any other agitated prisoners. According to the Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, Luna's plan could backfire spectacularly, so stay tuned for updates on any bad news that may be coming her way. According to the Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, Luna Nozawa, Lisa Yamada, has often claimed that she is being beaten in prison. But that proved to be another falsehood, as this deserving Emmy Award winner produced yet another outstanding performance. When Luna's bruiser of a cellmate consented to give her another physical pounding, viewers most likely began nodding collectively. The sight of those tightened hands, followed by a close-up of Luna's eager face, and then hearing the punch land was horrific. The above also validated what skeptics had suspected when Luna first tricked Bill Spencer, Don Diamant, to get her out of prison. She was not targeted in prison or the victim of an irrational outburst. Luna planned an assault as part of a manipulative strategy. Bill Spencer accepted the bad childhood, but Luna wrote Bill a series of letters. She emphasized what it was like to grow up with her mother, Poppy Nozawa, Romy Park. When Bill initially saw Jessica in prison, he noticed several facial injuries caused by apparent prison beatings. As a result, he used his political contacts to have her sentence served at his estate rather than a state jail. Luna's arrival to Bill's house enabled her to travel further. She twisted his emotions, and he exercised his financial muscles to an inconceivable extent to have Luna pardoned. Almost no one left who cares about Luna Nozawa. Luna has recently realized that Bill has no sympathy for her. She can try to redo the beating angle, but he might simply transfer her to solitary confinement. Fans may wonder why Luna was not secluded in prison upon her return, owing to concerns about what she may do to any roommate, rather than the opposite. However, that portion of the plot was crucial to move the storyline along, as was Luna's encounter with the same cellmate who had initially agreed to assault her. Bill and Poppy want Luna jailed. Lee Nozawa, Naomi Matsuda, and John Finnegan, Tanner Novlin, may be inclined to appeal for Luna's isolation after learning of the last alleged beating. The same might be stated about Will Spencer, crew Morrow, as Luna is carrying his kid, and Katie Logan, Heather Tom, the other grandmother. Sheila Carter Sharp, Kimberlyn Brown, is the only person who cares about Luna and understands her. Her reaction to Will being the father was unique among the others. Sheila smiled as she sensed her granddaughter's desire for upward mobility. Luna will have to contact Sheila if no one else responds to her apparent desperation. Alternatively, Sheila could learn about the beating during a first visit. Expecting Sheila to be able to orchestrate a prison release is unrealistic. But Brown's famed persona has frequently evaded punishment, sometimes literally. She may assist Luna with the same. Luna had never understood why life seemed determined to keep her in the shadows, no matter how brilliantly she tried to shine. She was a quiet girl with restless eyes, the type that appeared to see too much while revealing too little. Her laughter, when it came, was frail, like the tiny notes of a music box, and it often faded too abruptly, leaving a hollow echo behind. The world had always seemed too huge and indifferent to her, but she held on to the dream that someone, somewhere, would recognize her for who she was. The day it all broke apart began as any other, with the sun casting golden streaks across the city's cracked sidewalks. Luna walked slowly, her hands buried in the pockets of an old coat, her mind wandering through the maze of her own ideas. She had been scrupulously careful, but carefulness frequently disguised suspicion, and suspicion attracted attention. She had no idea how fast murmurs might turn into accusations, or how pals could become strangers. It began with tiny rumors, stories about her speaking too openly, being overly curious, and questioning things that others took for granted. She assumed they were innocuous, little shadows that would disappear over time. However, shadows tend to grow in areas where light is sparse. By the end of the week, those murmurs had turned into something tangible, an edict she couldn't ignore or resist. Luna was accused of scheming a type of freedom she had never imagined, the freedom to think, express oneself, and just live without apology. The authorities moved precisely. There was no trial and no explanation beyond a brief notification. Luna was whisked away from her house and the few familiar things she clung to, the worn quilt that smelled slightly of lavender, the stack of dog-eared books, and the little window that overlooked the garden, where a solitary rose bravely grew each spring. She didn't yell or weep. She had long realized that resistance simply drew more scrutiny. Her hands remained clasped and her gaze fixed, even as she was dragged into the unknown. The cell was smaller than Luna had thought. Cold concrete walls loomed about her like silent sentinels, and the air was thick with the odor of dampness and sorrow. A single, narrow bed was squeezed against one wall, while the opposite corner housed a toilet with no privacy. There was no window, no view, and no light. Time became a concept she could no longer comprehend. Days melted into nights, and nights into days, each indistinguishable from the other. Luna sought to grasp onto something, anything, that would tell her she was still alive. She mumbled the names of her favorite books, traced their pages in her head, recited memorized poems, and hummed the tunes she remembered. The guards passed by without noticing her there, their footsteps ringing like distant thunder. Conversations between them echoed softly through the walls, reminding her that the world existed outside, even if she was now completely blocked off from it. Hunger was a continual presence, nibbling away at her body and psyche. She had assumed that when the food arrived, it would taste cozy and familiar. Instead, it was tasteless, insufficient, a brutal reminder that her wants were secondary and irrelevant. Sleep provided little relief. The darkness beneath her eyelids felt denser than the darkness around her. She felt she could feel time pushing down on her chest, squeezing her into a hollow shell of herself. Weeks have passed. Weeks with no names, no markings, and no standout moments. Luna began to speak less, including to herself. Words felt useless and futile. She timed her days in breaths rather than hours, calculating each inhale and exhale as a small act of resistance. Her only companions were memories, the warmth of her mother's hand, the smell of rain on dry ground, and the laughter of youngsters she had once known. They were ghosts, frail and transient, yet they held her connected to a world she worried she would lose. And suddenly there was silence. Not the usual silence of a silent room, but a deeper, heavier silence that pressed against her eardrums, filled the corners of the cage, and sank into her bones. It felt overwhelming, but also strangely comforting. Luna could hear herself think, hear the gentle, uneven rhythm of her own heartbeat, and recall that she existed outside these confines. But hope is a perilous thing. The hope that liberation would eventually find her became a weak thread, easily severed by the constant repetition of isolation. She began to envisage a world without a place for her, a future in which no one recognized her name or lamented her loss. She imagined the rose in her garden wilting in her absence, its petals curling inward and fading into dust. That image struck her harder than hunger, cold, or the monotonous ticking of a clock that appeared to taunt her. Visitors came infrequently, if at all, and when they did, they chatted in friendly tones that lacked warmth. They asked questions, looked at her, nodded, and then left. Luna rapidly learned to nod back, provide the required responses, and be as little and unobtrusive as possible. Any spark of defiance may have meant the end. She clung to survival in its most basic form, learning to breathe, sit, and exist, like a plant wilting in a windowless room, waiting for rain that would never arrive. She often thought about the independence she had previously desired. It had appeared so solid and close that she could almost taste it. Now it was a phantasm, taunting her with its impossibility. The exact plot for which she had been punished, the alleged attempt at freedom, had backfired in the cruelest way possible. She had not meant to harm anyone, nor even to flee. She had simply sought to live authentically, to speak truthfully, and to be herself. Nonetheless, that simple, human need had led her to a place where even the remembrance of sunlight seemed like a distant luxury. Her thoughts spiraled downward, becoming increasingly introspective and wistful. She thought about the people she had loved, the friends who could have remembered her, and the life she could have enjoyed. Every memory was laced with a bittersweet anguish, and every dream was a reminder of what had been taken from her. She pictured herself walking down old streets, feeling the gritty roughness of stone beneath her fingers and hearing the distant buzz of life going on without her. Each imagined step was both reassuring and agonizing, offering a taste of freedom she couldn't achieve. Loneliness becomes a silent but steadfast companion. She addressed it at times, naming it and admitting its presence, even though she despised it. It was the only entity in that cell that couldn't betray her, and the only one whose company was reliable. But it was also a cruel friend, since it never gave her a reprieve, never let her forget the walls that surrounded her, the chains that existed not in metal but in circumstance, accusation, and misunderstanding. The human mind is resilient, or maybe it's stubborn. Luna found herself developing little routines to keep from going completely. She'd count the cracks in the floor, hum melodies she recalled from long ago, and trace shapes on the walls that could have been maps, prayers, or simply signs of her presence. Each small deed was a rebellion, a whisper of existence, a way to declare, quietly but firmly, I am still here. However, even tenacity has limits. There were days when she felt the edges of herself shredding, when the weight of captivity was so heavy that even breathing became difficult. She imagined vanishing into the blank nothingness of her cell, letting the walls absorb her and time obliterate her completely. The thought terrified her, but it was accompanied by a strange want, a desire to escape the excruciating monotony of being confined in a body, in a mind, in a world that had forgotten her. Some evenings, she would lie awake thinking about the stars, imagining them beyond the prison ceiling, the immensity of a sky she could no longer see. She'd mentally trace their constellations, create patterns of light in the darkness behind her closed eyes, and experience a short connection to a world beyond walls, guards, and rules that didn't understand her soul. That imagined sky became a haven, a place where her spirit could roam while her body couldn't. As the months passed, Luna became a ghost of her old self, a weak shadow of a girl who once believed that life could be more than whispers and imprisonment. She spoke less, thought less, and allowed herself only the tiniest slivers of creativity and hope. She defined her existence by the small imprints she could leave on the walls of her own mind, the memories she could clutch tightly enough to keep them alive. And yet, deep down, a part of her refused to give up. That part of Luna remembered the first time she smiled uncontrollably, felt the sun on her face, and truly believed that freedom was more than a phrase. That recollection sustained her, a small spark amid the oppressive darkness, a reminder that she had once known light and that it may return to her eventually. Even in solitary imprisonment, when hope appeared to dissipate like mist in the morning, Luna persisted. She continued to breathe, remember, and exist. And there, in that silent continuing, lay a pain deeper than any incarceration, a sorrow born not of punishment, but of a world that had misread her, condemning a spirit wanting only for freedom. Clara approached Eldermore, staying in the darkness. The streets were deserted, but the townspeople remained gathered in the square. She made her way to the bakery, where everything had collapsed. The structure looked shabby today, with boarded-up windows and a faded sign. She slipped inside through a broken door, her pulse racing as memories poured back. Elias laughing as he kneaded dough, their money battles, the night she discovered him dead on the floor, knife in hand. She'd always said she hadn't touched it until that moment, and that someone else had been present. But nobody believed her. Inside, the bakery was a husk, with dust on the countertops. Clara approached the site where Elias had died, her breath caught as she noticed something glinting in the moonlight. A little object is half buried in the flooring. She knelt and pried it free, revealing a locket she recognized. It belonged to Thomas Reed's wife, Margaret, who had died several years before Elias. Why was it here? Clara's hands trembled as she opened it, exposing a little snapshot of Margaret and Thomas, their looks youthful and optimistic. The words, "Forgive me," were etched into the metal beneath. The ground rumbled once more, this time more strongly. Clara stumbled and clutched the locket. Outside, the gathering in the square gasped as the riverbed shifted. Something was emerging. Bones, clothing, and a confession inscribed into a stone slab. The townspeople read it aloud, their voices rising with alarm. It was Thomas Reed's handwriting, confessing to Elias' murder, motivated by envy over a debt Elias refused to forgive. The Luna reveal had finished its work. Clara emerged from the bakery, the locket in her hand. The audience turned to see her, their eyes wide. Thomas stood among them, his face pale. "You," he muttered, but the word had no weight. The truth had come out, and it held him tighter than any chain. Clara did not speak. She did not need to. The Luna reveal had set her free, not through escape, but by the weight of a truth that was too heavy to conceal. She strolled past the crowd and the prison, then into the hills. The red moon watched her leave, its light dimming as the meteors burned out. Eldermore would never be the same, nor would she. The locket remained in her pocket, a reminder that freedom has a cost, a fact that cuts deeper than any knife.